Hello and welcome back to another episode of Red Dot Forum Camera Talk. We are back for another exciting episode. We made a slight change to our normal schedule because we had a product launch happen about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, it was on the 6th.
On the 6th.
9 days. 9 days.
9 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome back. I am your co-host, David Farkas. I am joined, as always, by Josh Lehrer.
Hey, everybody.
And we've got Jose Rivera producing the show with a special appearance. You guys
Good to see him.
have asked for this. You have asked for a Jose cam. Here's the Jose cam. Jose, how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. How's everybody
he is.
doing?
There he is.
Look at that.
The man,
He's
the myth,
alive.
the legend.
He's not a robot. He's a real
I
person.
am real. I am real.
It seems
yes.
like he's in a totally different place, but I promise you he's like 20 feet, 10 feet from us right there.
All right. So,
And you mentioned Kirsten in the chat?
and Kirsten
Yes.
Vignes is in the chat.
Yes.
Okay, so what are we talking about tonight, Josh?
Ooh, tonight is a fun one. It is the second Leica L-mount lens to launch this year after the Summicron SL, the Apple Summicron SL 28, which is the Vario-Elmarit-SL 24-70 f2.8 ASPH. This is the fourth zoom in the Leica L-mount lineup, the native Leica, or the Leica branded L-mount lineup, and the first constant aperture zoom. We have the 16-35, the 24-90, and the 90-280, which are all variable aperture zoom. So this is the first constant aperture Leica L-mount zoom lens, which is exciting.
It is very exciting.
Yeah,
it is also smaller and lighter,
It's yes,
and a fair amount less expensive than
it
a
is
24-90.
right. So the main reference point really we have is the 24-90. You have a lot of experience with that lens. That lens came out with the SL.
Yeah, in mid 2015 or late 2015, I should say.
And what are your sort of general thoughts on the 24-90? What do we like to say about it all the time?
So the 24-90 is, and I'm saying this as someone who, through the decades of my photography, I've always been and identified as a prime lens guy. I'm like, zooms are great, convenient, whatever. Give me a prime every day, all day. The 24-90 is the zoom lens that changed my opinion on that and made me a believer because it is as good at all marked focal lengths as the equivalent prime lenses. And not just any prime lenses, Leica prime lenses. So the 24 to, let me say that again. The 24-90 is as good at 24, 28, 35, 50, 75, 90 as equivalent Leica M prime lenses.
With some exceptions. Now that we've had
Maybe.
the 35 Apple M and the 75
Yeah,
Lux.
yeah.
Okay, but we're not talking about that stuff.
We're talking about mainstream.
Yeah,
M
like
lenses.
35 Lux, 50 Cron, 50 Lux, things like that.
So that it really changed the game in terms of having the flexibility of a zoom, and especially as someone who takes the SL system out into really inclement weather for landscape photography, having a zoom where I can change focal length. Sometimes, you can't get any closer to the edge of a cliff, but you want to change your viewpoint, and it's really nice to be able to work precisely with focal length and composition in camera, but also the weather sealing, not having to change lenses as often. So this has been amazing, certainly for my photography on the SL, and it's just been an awesome system going back to the original SL 601, as well as the SL2 and SL2S.
And the 24-90 has been really the number one seller and the number one most popular SL lens for good reason, because not only is it a zoom with a very nice range, because a lot of these zooms that we'll talk about, including the new one, and at 70, you've got a bit more reach. You can use it for more stuff. It has a very high reproduction ratio.
Yeah.
It's rare to see a lens of that kind of flexibility. It's also important to note that the 24-90 has integrated image stabilization.
It does.
Because the SL 601 still doesn't have sensor-based stabilization. So that was a nice feature in the 24-90.
Yep.
You also get stabilization when you mount it on a CL, which is
That's right.
pretty nice as well.
Yep.
Because the CL also lacks in-body stabilization. So
So it has optical image stabilization, or OIS.
yes. So pop a photo. Tony's here. Hi, Tony. So I think that we were pretty committed to the trio of SL zooms, and we didn't really, at least David and I didn't really feel like we needed anything else. But we're not the only ones using this gear by far.
Well, I mean, I know for years people like, how come Leica doesn't make a constant aperture zoom?
Yeah.
And the reason was always given, because we actually had a fascinating conversation with the head of the SL optics program in Germany. We were hanging out. We were over there for, was that 2018?
Oh, I can't even.
I think it was
keep
2018.
track of
And,
this, yeah.
and we're talking with him and saying like, why don't you guys make a constant aperture zoom? And he said, well, there's no such thing. Like,
Typical Leica answer.
what? What's that now?
Yeah.
He's like, no. When any kind of vario lens design, you're always going to lose light as you zoom further. And the barrel dimensions are changing, and generally it's telephoto extension, so you're losing light. I said, okay, but there's constant aperture zooms in the market already and has been for decades.
Yeah.
Like, kind of, so basically our impression, the unspoken truth seems to be that a lot of manufacturers, in order to achieve a constant aperture zoom, actually have the lens faster than its marked aperture, but don't make that available to the user, probably because it's not great image quality. So it's kind of a little trick. But in this case, Leica heard the users and said, okay, you want a constant aperture zoom? We're going to work with
I think
them and
something
give
that
it to
Leica has been doing recently, and even not so recently, with the SL system, is they from early on, when the SL launched, and we were just talking about this, when the SL first launched, it was $7,450 in the US.
Hard to believe, yeah.
And Leica quickly realized that price wasn't logical for the market they were going for, which is the pro market, the people, not just professional photographers, but people who need that level of performance and durability from their cameras. So he lowered the price to $59.95, which was much more in line with like the top shelf Canon and Nikon bodies at the time. And they've continued to try to have their ear to the ground a little bit. I know it seems hard to believe that Leica would actually be price conscious, but when it comes to trying to enter this new space for them, they were. So we saw that again with the SL2S, which came out at the end of last year. I think, right? Now it's $1,500 cheaper, I think, right, than an SL2.
Yep.
With all the same performance, in fact, better ISO performance, and just less resolution.
Better video performance.
And now we see that again with the 24-70 2.8, which comes in at pretty much half the price of the 24-90.
Sure.
So here's an opportunity for individuals who are either new to the system or who are used to other manufacturers' prices in the pro space, still paying a small premium for Leica because it's still a handmade Leica product, except now it's much more in line, I think, with what a lot of people are expecting.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare this to Nikon Pro Glass or Canon L Glass or whatever, the price is actually pretty well in line with what those lenses go for a 24-70.
Especially when you consider how many more lenses those companies make.
Oh, so many more.
Exponentially greater in greater quantity. So,
and once we talk about, I think also the physical build quality, the construction, as well as the performance, actually, it's surprising they were able to come in at this price point.
Yes, it's actually a pretty good deal. And they're also, now, as of today, which is May 15th, there are bundles as well. So you can get an SL2 or an SL2S with the 24-70 and save like $600. Now we don't know how long those will go for. But my point being, it clearly shows that Leica is interested in bringing new people in and bringing them in at a price point that is familiar if you're in that pro top level space. It's not like double or something crazy.
Right.
And that's exciting for us because, we like bringing new people in and we get excited when someone new gets to come into the brand and actually see what it can do.
Spoil them for life.
Yes, very true. Got a lot of people signing on. Hello, everybody. Colin is here. Hi, Colin.
Yeah, why don't you check what's going on in the chat there? We've been talking.
Yeah, we've been blabbing on, but that's fine. I think we know what the questions are, so we can answer them pretty definitively. We got some questions ahead of time. A lot of the same question, which I'm sure a lot of people can guess what that was many times, which we will answer on the show to the best of our ability. I think anytime Leica comes out with a new product, there's always a discussion about what it is, where is it from, what does it do, and is it worth it? And the is it worth it question is one that it's hard for anyone to answer in the end, but it's either too expensive and nobody would want it, or it's too expensive and there must be something wrong with it. I find that kind of amusing. It's like, well, I don't know who gets to decide when something's either way. I think the beauty of something like Leica is that it's number one, aspirational, and number two, you can look at pre-owned depreciations and values over time and actually see that in the long run, it's not so bad.
No.
I remember when the 50 Lux was like 22.
When you talk about cost, actual total cost.
Yes,
of
over
ownership.
time. Cost of ownership cost of ownership over time.
The upfront cost is definitely higher, but that retained value and longevity. Because, look, let's take the SL 601 for an example.
Yeah.
Right? You mentioned the price that it came out at, but that was 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago.
Yeah.
At the end of this year.
Yeah.
And that camera still feels really modern and current.
Yeah, if you pick up an SL601 and you've never seen an SL2, you would still feel like it's snappy. It's got a high-res viewfinder, excellent low-light performance. And now these cameras pre-owned are readily available, and you're still getting quite a lot of value for that.
Yep.
So it is exciting for me to see Leica recognizing a gap in the market in their product portfolio that they can slot into and actually doing it and making it available pretty much right away. These lenses have started to ship.
They have.
Both in the individual lenses by themselves and the bundles have been shipping as well. So that's pretty exciting. So there's a lot of discussion around about what this lens is, how it performs, where it's made, who makes it, is it good? Is it as good as the 24-90? You have to say, okay, it's half the price. Is it half the performance? Is it half the build? Is it half the whatever? So we're going to try to address as many of those questions today as we can.
Yeah. So if you have other questions that you feel that we're not covering,
Yes.
drop them in the comments down below. Also, make sure to send Jose your love now that you can see him after all these episodes.
That's right. Finally,
we dug him out of the dungeon.
You
so-
have to be encouraging because we want to make sure he makes an appearance every now and then.
That's right. That's right.
They allow
So
me to
first,
come
let's just show it off here. So I've got the 24-70 here right now with the hood attached in the outward position on the SL2S. And this is a combination that I'm going to be traveling with in 3 weeks or so when I go to the West Coast. Yeah. So I'm
Are you
actually
ready?
excited
Yeah.
because this exact combo is what I'm going to take with me on my next trip. And I'm really, really interested in putting it to use. So let's get the close-up cam going here.
Nice.
There we go. So here it is.
Beautiful.
This is 24-70 2.8 with the lens hood on the SL2S. Just to give you a sense of the size of it, I'm going to hold it up next to the 24-90, which is on an SL2, which of course is the same body. Oops, wrong direction.
You want me to hold that?
I get it both.
Okay.
And you can definitely see.
That is awkward.
Yeah, it's a little awkward. You
Here, why don't I hold one?
want to hold one?
And let's flip them the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Now we're doing great. This is easy. Oh, here I can just go like this. Here we
Okay.
go.
Yeah, but you're covering
Oh,
the
I'm
lens.
covering it up.
Yeah.
I'm glad nobody can see this. Oh wait, everyone can see.
Everyone
this.
can see it.
So, okay, I'm clearly doing a bad job here, but that's better.
Right, there
Here
you
you
go.
can get a pretty clear sense of just how much larger the 24-90 is. Not to mention the fact that it's about 10 ounces heavier, which is pretty noticeable when you've got it in your hands. I will also say a lot of the weight in the 24-90 is, or I would say more of the weight is towards the front of the 24-90 than it is with the 24-70. So weight difference mathematically aside, when you're holding it in your hand, the 24-90 tends to torque a little bit more forward versus the 24-70, which just balances a little better. So if you don't need the 24-90 and you want something that's a little bit friendlier to handhold, that's what I'm trying to say.
Not hand-holdable?
Not handholdable. It is very handholdable.
Well, why don't we
24
do, also, do the same shot. I like where you hold them side by side.
Yeah.
Take the lens shades off as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to actually zoom them out.
Oh, okay.
So you can see how they look extended. And then we'll do that same side-by-side
Yep.
shot. What did I do? Like this?
Yeah, you kind of held them.
Like this?
Yeah, like that. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Let's go just like that, Jose.
You got to move that hand, though.
All right, so 24-70, 24-90, you can see, I'll try to line these up just right, how much further the 24-90 extends, quite a good bit. From the front, they look the same, of course, because you've both got 82 millimeter filter sizes. So it's not a matter of diameter. The diameter is the same. It's a matter of weight and length. Definitely, you feel that difference when you're holding these cameras in your hands. Another difference between the two, interestingly, the 24-90 lens hood, which is this, is plastic and not great. The 24-70 lens hood is actually metal,
Yeah, it's super nice.
much nicer. And interestingly, doubly interestingly, it actually does fit on, let me retract it here. It actually fits on the 24-90 perfectly. It
Nice.
lines up and everything. So You can't buy these hoods separately yet, but as soon as they are available, I would say if you have a 24-90, get this hood because it fits on the lens really, really nicely, and it's just a nicer hood. It's made out of metal.
Yeah, it's super nice. You can.
I don't think they can hear that.
I don't know. It's metal.
We promise it's metal. So that's actually a nice advantage of the 24-70 over the 24-90 is the nicer hood.
Although it does have plastic locking ring inside, so it doesn't actually scratch and damage the
Yeah,
ring
you wouldn't want
lens.
metal on metal. That would be bad.
Well, metal on anodized is going to just scratch it off.
Yeah, right. So it is plastic on the inside, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about the mechanical differences between 24-90 and 24-70. Of course, 24-90 has built-in stabilization. 24-70 does not. So that also makes the lens smaller, lighter.
And that may not seem like a lot, but 70 to 90 is what, roughly 20 to 25% longer?
Yeah, if I do the math, 20%, 25%. I don't know.
One of those.
It's something like that. So yeah, so of course you have extra reach with the 24-90. But the reality is, without the hood on, the 24-90, or excuse me, the 24-70 is really, really noticeably smaller. I think even more so than the specs say.
Why don't you show it against the Summicron?
Yeah,
Because
let me
I
pop
think,
that on
that
here.
that's an interesting comparison because one of the main goals that Leica had when they did the Summicron series is the Summicron
Oh,
SLs.
you didn't take the back out. You can't hand me a lens with the back cap
There
on.
you
I'm
go.
going to mount it. There we go.
One of the goals was to make something that was smaller and more hand-hold
All right.
friendly.
So let's do the close-up shot one more time and
That's
see.
not too different.
So here's the 24-70
Yep.
with a 35 APO SL as well. So it's actually the lens is the 35 APO is still lighter and smaller, but not dramatically so. It's actually pretty nice.
What's the weight difference between those two?
I don't actually know. We can weigh it and find out. I have my trusty scale right here. My lettuce scale. Let's see.
Yeah, no caps.
So no caps, no hood. 24 to. I'll weigh the 24-90.
Yep.
Let's do grams. 24-70 is 846 grams. 35 APO SL is 696 grams. So 150 grams lighter. That's not actually that much.
It's not that much.
And let's look at the 24-90 real quick. 1,133 grams. So that's
Wow.
a 400 gram, 300 gram.
So
difference.
actually, a 35 Summicron SL is a lot closer in weight to a 24-70 than it is to a 24-90.
Yeah, and that jives with what I was just feeling as I
Yes.
was using it. Put this over here. So, okay, so there's the weight question out of the way. Now, we have 229. What time is it? 8:22. Put my lettuce scale away. I think there's a lot of. Let me backtrack. This is probably one of the most misunderstood Leica products in a long time. I'm trying to think of the last product that was misunderstood. Maybe like the MD 262 with no screen.
I was going to say like the 51.2 Noctilux.
Well, I
pretty
think people knew what that was. And there's a lot of misinformation or lack of information or people drawing conclusions without data, et cetera, on the internet, which I guess is pretty normal.
Well, lucky for them, we came up with a whole bunch of data.
So yeah, the thing is, I try not to draw assumptions from biases or presumed data or anything like that. I try to say, okay, let me just try something out and see for myself, like what is it? What does it do? How does it work?
Yeah.
Which is what this episode and what really our show is all about, is demystifying a lot of these concepts that you can read about online, you can look at a spec sheet or whatever, but you don't really put pen to paper, so to speak, without actually doing the testing in a controlled scenario in the real world and seeing the results and analyzing results, and then we talk about it.
Yeah.
And,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Josh was like, every 10 minutes, it's like, okay, so I just did this, and oh my gosh. So when you compare this and that, it's amazing. Like,
yeah, we
I had
geek out
no
a lot
idea.
about this kind of stuff. And usually the Saturday of a live stream, I'm doing all this testing, and like we're on the phone and we're like going on, and it's.
But
probably the
I
most
think
fun part.
I think we had more back and forth about this lens than we've had about a lot of things. Because look, when the 35 Apple came out, and we did an episode not that long ago for that, I think we both understood like the thing was going to be perfect.
Right.
It was going to be amazing.
It was. We made assumptions
That were
and
correct.
we were
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, it was a little bit easier to make
But
assumptions.
this one is like, well, it's, is it more, it's more because it's more budget friendly? Is it, what are we looking at here?
I was just asking myself, if it's half the price of the 24 to 90, is it half as good? I don't, and if it was, or if it is half as good, I probably would have a hard time justifying it.
Yes.
Because it's still a pro body, full frame L-mount lens that, why would Leica come out with a lens why would they do that? So
Right.
I think through a lot of exhaustive testing for the entire day on an SL2, which I felt was the best option because it was the most demanding, or is the most demanding, being the highest resolution.
Sure.
I've come up with some real data and also handling the lens, using the lens alongside some other lenses, and also just my own experience using all these lenses and David's experience for all these years, coming up with some conclusions. So let's try to get into that now.
So that prompts.
Yeah.
So Josh, if it's not half as good, how good is it?
I don't know how to put a number on it. If I had to say, I would probably say 70% is good, 80% is good as a 24-90. In some scenarios, it's actually better. In some scenarios, it's
Those were surprising.
yes.
We were both surprised.
So let's get the first question out of the way: is where is this lens manufactured? The Leica 24-90 SL is manufactured in Japan. Now, Leica also makes all of the TL Vario lenses in Japan, like the 11-23, 18-56,
The 18, the 23.
and some of the primes as well.
Yep.
So Leica has been collaborating with other manufacturers, some known,
and some
some
unknown.
for longer than David and I have been doing Leica stuff.
I mean, you realize that this isn't without precedent. The 35-70 f4R lens was made in Japan.
Yeah. So Leica has been doing this for a long time, and I think we've been a little bit spoiled by the made in Germany ethos and marketing over the years, and I get that because that's part of the fun. But there are times when Leica has to look at their use case and their market objectives and say, if we want to make this product for this price point to meet this customer's needs, can we make it at the factory in Wetzlar, or do we have to outsource it somewhere else? Look at the compact cameras,
Right.
made in Japan and made in China. Does it make them not like a product? Does it make them not excellent products? No.
They're still good.
If the DLX7 was made in Germany, it'd be $6,000, like the Q2. So I think there's a reason for that, because Leica's not trying to make all their products the most expensive things in the world. They're trying to have a range.
But I also think it's worth noting that even if they're making the lenses in Japan, they are still very clear about the fact that whatever is produced with their name on it, that it's adhering to Leica quality standards, both in terms of manufacturing tolerances as well as quality checks.
Yes.
So just like in Germany, they have a very high rejection rate for products because they don't meet the quality bar and they have to go back through the process. The same is going to be true of a Japanese-made lens. So it's...
And the Portuguese-made lenses.
And the
and
Portuguese
the M lenses
lenses,
they make in Portugal now.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's these rigors put into place. We do live in a global marketplace. Leica acknowledges that. But they're willing to do this to deliver at a price point, but they're unwilling to sacrifice quality.
Exactly.
Because Leica isn't going to put something out with their name on it and go on their cameras that isn't Leica quality.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to do that.
No.
Right? There's no, if you think about it
They'd
objectively.
rather not do it.
Yeah, there's no reason for Leica to come out with a product that they're not going to stand behind, which is one of the reasons we haven't seen a teleconverter for the SL system.
True.
Because they can't stand behind one.
Right.
Probably one of the reasons we haven't seen a macro lens yet for the SL system, because I'm theorizing here. I don't think Leica is just interested in pumping out products left and right like some other manufacturers. It may be right for them, but Leica's, we're not talking about serial production products, not special editions. That's a different animal.
Right.
I think Leica's objective is to make something that they can say, this is a Leica product. And that's it. They don't have to say anything else. So, okay, that's enough of that. So, yes, the 24-70 2.8 is made in Japan. It actually says made in Japan. It says Leica camera Wetzlar, made in Japan on the bottom. So it's not like I'm giving
not a
you
secret.
any information you wouldn't be able to get if you had the lens in your hand. So then the question is, when you hold it in your hands, compared to the 24-90, which of course is made in Germany and costs twice as much, does it feel like a lens that, like I said, does it feel like a lens, not like a lens, that has build quality compromises compared to the 24-90? And I've been using this lens all day, and I can definitively say no. The entire barrel is metal. The front end of the lens, where the filter attaches, is metal. The quality of the rubber on the focusing and zoom rings is
identical.
the same quality you get on any of other SL Vario lenses. The consistency of the finish is the same, the whole black anodized aluminum finish from top to bottom. And the feel and the weighting of the focusing and the zoom ring is exactly what you'd expect, both in terms of like the resistance you get, the linearity of it, and also the sound or lack thereof. Because you don't get like a, on plastic or any kind of
Grindy sound.
grinding or right. So it's just as smooth.
Well, it has that perfect Leica drag
Yeah.
that we're so used to on all these lenses.
Yeah.
Whether it's a 35 APO SL,
yeah.
Or the 24-70, this feel and that feel on the zoom and focus rings feels the same.
Yes, exactly. So if you had a 16-35 and a 90-280 in your bag, and your middle lens was the 24-70, and you were switching between the two, you wouldn't have any quality differences. One difference you will notice, which when you read about it ahead of time, you would be a little bit, I'd say a little concerned, but in practice today, it's not something that's been an issue, which is the zoom ring on the 24-70 turns the opposite direction from the other SL Varios. Now, I did at first think this would be annoying. I've been shooting with the lens all day, and I've been bouncing between the 24-70 and the 24-90 all day, doing my testing.
How much of
And
an issue was it?
It was not an issue.
Yeah.
If it was, if you've watched the show, you know that I would tell you.
Oh, yeah,
because
for sure.
We're not. We may be biased, but we're not like.
No.
We're gonna tell it like it is in the end, because we believe in actually using the gear and putting it into practical use. So no, I didn't find it to be an issue. I just turned the lens the way it goes. I don't know. I just feel like it was just never a thing. I was never turning the other way. It wasn't a problem. So I don't think that's as much of a concern as it may seem on paper.
Yeah, I was concerned about that.
Yes.
I brought it to your attention. I said,
Yes.
the zoom ring turns the opposite direction. That's a little weird.
Yeah.
But obviously to hit the same kind of design and size, mechanical issues, have to be considered. So.
Yeah. So no, that was not a concern that I had at all. So when I was handling this lens all day, I never once turned it the wrong way to try to get to. No, it just wasn't an issue. And one nice thing that I never even noticed until today was on the quick menu display on the SL2, you actually do see a live readout of focal length.
You do, yes.
Which I never really needed until now, testing zooms against each other. So
This SL601 even has that.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
Look at that. I never noticed. So if you are in the quick menu on the top left, you can actually see a live readout of your exact focal length while you're zooming, which is another random tidbit from today. So, okay. Which questions do I answer first? Well, I guess the first question would be, should we do the big one first? Or this?
I don't know. What's going on in the comments?
Well, I know what people want to know. So
what's going on?
What do you think is going on?
I can't read from here.
No, I can. Well, why don't we address the elephant in the room, because that's, I think, what everybody wants to know. Now, the first thing I need to mention is that David and I do not work for Leica.
Nope.
We're not affiliated in any corporate sense with Leica Camera AG or Leica Camera USA. We speak for ourselves, and we speak for ourselves only. That's really, really important. Now, there are details about the manufacturing, production, design of Leica products that we do not know. We don't know who makes the sensors in any of these cameras. We don't know who makes the CL Vario lenses in Japan. We have no idea. I mean, we know that Leica sells them. We know that Leica is the manufacturer of record. We don't know where they manufacture. We don't know who makes the image stabilization module in these lenses, because I'm sure Leica doesn't.
Right.
So there's a lot of things we don't know.
We know who makes the image processor, though. That's Fujitsu.
Okay, we know that.
Yeah.
So we
know like a little.
There's always going to be information that companies like Leica and others are not going to share with consumers, whether it's trade secrets, proprietary knowledge, or they feel it's not relevant, or whatever. And I'm not going to be I'm trying not to be too judgmental about that, even though I would like to know everything about everything all the time.
And, and in fairness, they used to share that information much more. So they would say, let's say for the M8, okay, the M8,
Yeah.
Kodak TrueSense is making the sensor, and the image processing algorithms are written by Yanoptic. It's like, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
And then that kind of slowly got phased away.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, because to me, if I'm putting myself in Leica's shoes, if you're trying to sell a Leica product, it should be a Leica product. And I think when you start talking about
Piecemeal
suppliers,
list,
and you look at a Rolls Royce, well, the chassis is a BMW. You look at a Tudor, a
and they
Rolex,
don't-
and there's a Tudor
and
movement.
even in a Rolls Royce, they don't make the seatbelts. They don't make the airbags.
Yeah.
They
They
don't
don't give you a list.
manufacture-
They don't give you a list of who makes all that stuff.
No.
No, you're buying a Rolls Royce. Now, I'm not saying a Rolls Royce and a Leica are the same thing, so don't hate me for that. My point being is, Leica Camera AG, the manufacturer of this lens, has not, and most likely will not, indicated who, meaning at what who owns the facility where the 24-70 is manufactured. Let's just get that out of the way. We don't know. Nobody officially knows. Unless someone who works at Leica leaks the information illegally or Leica comes out and says it, anything that is currently online is speculation. Now, doesn't mean it's not accurate because, of course, I don't know. So I'm not going to say that yes or no, it's made by so-and-so definitively, or it's not made definitively because we don't know. I just want to make that perfectly clear. So when we don't know who makes it, meaning when we don't know the owner of the facility, the factory that makes the product, all we can then do is judge it on its own merits, performance, feel, build, user experience.
Sure.
Just like you do anything else. When you drive a Rolls, you don't say, well, this feels like a BMW.
I don't drive a Rolls.
Well, I've driven one once and it felt amazing. So let's just make sure that we get that caveat out of the way, is that there are a lot of things about Leica we don't know. I mean, there are sensors in every camera on this table. That is the most critical part of the imaging pipeline. And these products, Leica does not make them. I'm sorry to break it to you. They design them, they oversee their manufacturer, but they don't make them.
And they have design criteria, they have quality measures that have to be achieved.
Yes.
And delivered
so
on.
but they don't make them. So I'm sorry to break it to you. Leica doesn't make any of their own, any sensors. They've never made a sensor as far as I know, and they probably never will because the sensor foundry is billions of dollars and Leica is a tiny, tiny company. So let's just get that out of the way.
I think we got it out of the way.
Yes. I'm just looking
You got that out of your system?
I'm not sure you made yourself clear enough. Well, you say that, but if you watch any of our episodes, you watch the chat at the same time, it's the same stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the question is, or the rumors,
Yes.
or the speculation that is flying about is that the lens is manufactured by Sigma. Sigma is a Japanese lens manufacturer. They've worked with Leica before.
Well, they're part of the L-mount alliance.
I was getting there. Yes, thank you. That's okay. Yes, as David said, they are part of the L-mount alliance. So, is this lens made by Sigma? Well, we don't know because, like I just said, we don't know where it's made. But Sigma makes a 24-70 2.8 L-mount lens.
They do.
And if you look at the specifications, there are a lot of similarities.
Yes.
And this is where all of this discussion is coming from is, okay, you look at the lens diagram, you look at the number of lens elements and blah, blah, blah. Some specs are slightly different. There's one more exotic glass element in the Leica lens, and the Leica lens is a slightly different field of view, long to short. It's like 1.7 degrees wider and a 1 degree longer.
It's different weight.
The weight is different. The hoods are different. So, okay, there are some differences. So it's not a carbon copy, which is why there is this uncertainty. If it was exactly the same, it would be easier to make an assumption, even though we are never probably going to know. But because it's not exactly the same, I'm not going to come on this show and say, this lens is made by Sigma. Well, I just said it, but we don't actually know.
We're also not going to say this lens isn't made by Sigma.
Exactly, because we don't know. So, okay, so let's get that out of the way, right? So there's a Sigma 24-70 2.8. And of course, the reason that this brings up some heated discussion is because the Sigma is like $1,100 and the Leica lens is $2,800. $1,700 more.
Yes.
Now, a Leica product costing more than a competitor's product is not a surprise.
No.
Because every Leica product generally costs more than their competitor's product because it's a Leica product. I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry.
It's important. It's okay. I'm just letting you roll.
Well, I spent all day testing this stuff, so I'm getting off topic here. So the question comes down to really is the Leica 24-70 2.8 aspheric better in any way or every way than the Sigma 24-70 2.8? Right, that's the question. Because if it was exactly the same in every way, it wouldn't be worth it. I'd be the first to say that. I'm not willing to pay a huge premium for something that's empirically, scientifically the same.
Now,
generally.
I think we need to also clarify, we're not talking purely about optical performance.
Correct.
Because there is more to products than simply the end result. There is also the build quality, the weather sealing, the ergonomics of how a product feels in your hand.
The haptics.
The haptics.
As like
there you go.
Say, yeah.
Because for me personally, I like to use gear that gives me confidence, that inspires me, that doesn't get in the way, that I know I can count on. Because I'm taking and beating the snot out of my stuff.
As you guys know if you've watched the show.
And I want to know that it's going to perform. And I want to know that it's going to be reliable, repeatable. I mean, I'm remiss to tell you the amount of SL lenses that I've dropped. And I can tell you they all function perfectly fine. I may not be able to put filters on all of them anymore.
Like this 90-280.
Like
right
90 to
here.
280, but not a single one has been knocked out of alignment, out of calibration.
Yeah.
Autofocus is spot on.
Yeah.
Sharpness is spot on. All the mechanics work perfectly because these things are built like
Because they're
tanks.
Leica products.
Yeah, they're
Because
built
Leica
such a
is
high level.
selling them as a Leica product, and they meet that standard. So let's get back to the question.
Yes.
Is the Leica 24-70 better or worse or the same as the Sigma? Well, if I just went online and went on the various sites of interest, I would say
it's the same.
It's exactly the same.
Right.
You're getting ripped off. It's $17 more. It's garbage. Then I would call it a day. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion, but I don't base my opinions and my deductions from what I read online about cameras and lenses because I don't know. I need to get it in my hands and I need to test it. I need to understand how it feels, all the metrics that David just spoke about. So I have here the 24-70 2.8
Right there.
Leica lens that just came out. Now, the only way that I'm going to know if it's better than the Sigma lens is by testing it. So naturally, I have the Sigma 24-70 2.8 because I wouldn't be a very good person of data gathering if I didn't have the exact thing I needed to gather the data on. So if we can get a close-up shot here, I don't even know where the front is officially. There we go. There it is. So this is the Sigma lens that is allegedly and possibly the brother or the copy, if you will, if some people were to have their way, of the Leica 24-70. So I've got it right here. So now I have spent the entire day testing this lens, the Sigma, against the 24-90 and the 24-70 on the SL2 in a variety of situations, tripod mounted, self-timer, low ISO. I mean, just like you've seen me do before, to understand in practical use if the Leica version is better, and if so, how? Is it if it's worse? If so, how?
Right.
And I've come to a lot of conclusions, and I'm going to tell you what they are. First conclusion. Optical differences. Are there any? Shockingly, yes. Are they dramatic? No. The 24-90 is still the king of the Vario.
Yes.
It is measurably superior to any non-crazy Apo M prime lens that Leica makes right now. First thing. Next to that would be the Leica 24-70 2.8. Next to that would be the Sigma 24-70 2.8. Now, where are the differences? Now, as I've said on the show before, most lenses that exist, older or newer, are sharp in the center. It's really not that hard to make a lens sharp in the center. I could find negligible differences between the two lenses. In fact, between the three lenses.
Well, it's like we talked about. It's easy to make a sharp lens at if it's only ever shooting at middle distances at f8. You know,
Yes.
There's certain things that are easier to do and certain things that are much more challenging.
I'm going to show examples of this, by the way. So I know someone in the comments just said, I have to prove it, which I will.
We're gonna prove it.
Don't worry. I'm not just talking.
Stick around.
There's a tell and there's a show. The show comes next.
Yes.
So, but I want to make it clear, we're not talking about a night and day difference. What I noticed with the 24-70 Leica was a higher level of sharpness, corner to corner, consistently at varying focal lengths, getting more noticeable as you zoomed more towards 70 than the Sigma lens. Now, we're just right now talking about performance. We're not talking about optical performance. We're not talking about any other aspects of the lens. Now, the question then comes down to is that because I got a bad copy? Is that because I don't know how to do testing?
Well, the bad copy thing brings
Yes.
up a really interesting discussion point.
I was prompting, yes, that's
right?
Yes.
So this is something we were talking about. We're like, well, if this really is a carbon copy, let's what's our hypothesis here and how are we testing this? Okay, well, your point was, well, maybe there's just sample variation and we got a bad copy of the Sigma. It's like, right, but what are the chances that we've ever seen a bad copy of a 24-90?
Pretty low. And now someone in the comments was like, well, I got a bad copy. I'm like,
Yeah,
well,
but-
nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect, but they're really, really close to perfect.
So sample variation
Yeah.
is key.
Leica doesn't have much sample variation in modern SL glass. It's just not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Because the tolerances are so excruciatingly tight, both in manufacturing and testing and QC. Nothing gets out the door that varies any measurable amount.
Yes.
And then they'll calibrate whatever is variance into the camera and lens connection so that it's canceled out. They started doing that with the S system.
yes.
Okay, so we see very, very, very tight tolerances with the Leica products. And if we're seeing the same tight tolerances, even if someone else is, that they've partnered with someone else to manufacture this lens, Leica's going to hold them to that tolerance. While the other, less expensive, looser tolerance item is going to go out the door, and it's going to go into photographers'
Now,
hands.
I do want to mention that the place that I acquired this lens from has a reputation for only having the best copies. So, which is why I got it from there. I don't want to give anybody free advertising, but you guys can figure it out. I got it from someplace that is very reputable.
Yes.
And I did that because I didn't want to unintentionally handicap a lens that wasn't Leica just because people would accuse me of doing it on purpose. No, my objective was to find out what's going on. So,
but I mean, I'm just going to rewind just a second.
Yes.
So this isn't to say that there's anything wrong with Sigma or Panasonic. Or
no,
whoever.
I have no problem with any manufacturer. All I'm doing is...
But understand that in terms of tolerance and quality assurance levels, that it's, for most manufacturers, it's diminishing returns because it costs exponentially more to make it minutely better.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a cost benefit analysis. If they're saying we need to sell this lens at $1,100 retail, what can we afford to do? What tolerance can we afford to hit? They're going to do that. It's not that there's something wrong with this. It's not.
No, let me first say this is a great lens. I mean, I think for $1,100, it's a great lens.
And I've experienced even more sample variation.
Yeah.
This goes back a ways, but I was doing an article for Digital Photo Pro. I don't know if they're around anymore, about a lens calibration tool, and I had three 24-70 2.8 L glass Canon lenses on a pro body, locked down on a tripod with a focus target, and 3 different pro lenses that were, how much were those? $1,800, something like that?
Which ones?
The 24-70 2.8.
Yeah, they were like $2,000 or something.
Or
like
$2,000.
Yeah.
And 3 lenses gave 3 completely different calibration results. And those are pro level lenses from a pro camera company.
Yeah.
So this is very common. There is generally tolerance. The exception to the rule is Leica. Most manufacturers do not have this high level of tolerance because it becomes this kind of snowballing cost type of thing where the products become much more expensive.
I want to address another thing. Jose, can we get a close-up on this quickly? I know I'm going to move the camera a little bit. I see in the comments that there's discussion about the Panasonic 24-70 2.8. So Panasonic does make a 24-70 2.8 L-mount lens, but the reason that it's not in this discussion is because it's enormous. Here it is. It's huge. I don't know if you can really... Let me take the back cap
Yeah, you can
off.
definitely see it. Well, hold it up versus the 24-90, and I think it's a better...
Well, first I'm going to start with the 24-70. It's
It's a
much
fair amount larger. Yeah.
And the ergonomics are not great. Sorry, Panasonic. Let's put it up 24-90. So even though it's really more the size of the 24-90.
Yeah.
So
With less focal length.
and yeah, I tested it in the very beginning of the day, and after I realized it wasn't really up to the same level as the Sigma or the Leica, and also was so much larger, I just stopped testing it. I'm not bashing this lens. I'm just saying relative to where we're at.
Yeah. So what Josh is saying, just to clarify,
Yes.
the 24-70 Leica and the 24-70 Sigma both consistently outperformed the Panasonic 24-70 2.8.
Yeah.
And that's the what series is that?
This is
Give the specific model.
S Pro.
S Pro.
That's a compact.
So not the...
And it says certified by Leica on the back, but that's probably because Leica and Panasonic have had their
The L mount was certified.
relationship for.
Because Panasonic as well is part of the L mount alliance.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And I should also mention really quickly that I also started the day with one other lens, which was this,
oh boy,
which is the Canon 24-70 2.8.
the one I was
with
talking
the
about.
Sigma MC21 adapter on it. However, it's so slow and so challenging to use on the SL2 that it really didn't feel at home on this test. It's just not a viable option for daily use. So I just stopped using
Show a
it.
close up of that so we
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
You can close up of this. Here we go. So this has the Sigma MC21 adapter on it. It does work. just not terribly well. So I just didn't want people to think that I was leaving out the Canon, because I did. As you can see, I went through great lengths to get every example of the 24-70 that I could logically get my hands on.
So, but I think like we were doing, basically you kind of ruled out the Canon, ruled out the Panasonic, whittled it down to the most relevant and closest comparisons. So the other interesting fact is that Panasonic lens is twice the price of the Sigma lens.
Yes.
And it's actually closer in price to the Leica 24-70, but performance is less.
Yeah. So performance-wise, slight edge to the Leica lens, and I suspect that's going to be consistent across multiple copies because of Leica's attention to quality control.
Yep.
Again, I want to be clear. It's not a night and day difference. It's not like using a 35 Apo and a 35 Sumerit where the difference is night and day. You'll see when I show you some of the tests that there's a difference and it's noticeable, but it's not like if the 24-90 is a 10 and the 24-70 is an 8, the Sigma would be like a 7, 6.8 maybe. That
What do you
would be
think
the scale.
in terms of other lenses? Let's say like, 35, a spheric pre-FLE versus an FLE?
A bigger gap than that. Those are pretty close. I would say this is kind of like, I'm trying to think of a good example because Leica makes these huge leaps usually.
Yeah, they do.
So this is not Leica to Leica. This is
Right.
Sigma to Leica. So I'm going to stop talking about the image quality differences because I'm going to show them in a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the lens itself, right?
Yeah.
So let's get another close-up going. I'm going to try my best to show these both here. I'm going to go kind of point by point here and talk about the design of these two lenses. The first thing you'll notice is the Sigma has a couple of switches on it. It has got like a zoom lock switch and a focus switch and a button. Yeah. Now, that's cool and all, except when I see switches and dials on a product that's supposed to be weather sealed, all I tend to see are failure points. Now, I'm not specifically saying these are going to fail. Let me please be clear. Don't sue me, Sigma. What I'm saying is Leica clearly made a design choice to eliminate any switches because there are none. Let me just rotate this around. There are no switches, dials, or buttons on this lens. So this lens is as sealed and as rock solid as you can get. That's the first and most obvious physical difference. The second and that's kind of harder to identify, is that all of this material on the Sigma is, I'm assuming it's plastic. It certainly feels like it. The build quality is not the same. I'm not willing to drop this to find out because I don't own it. But this is definitely not the same build quality in terms of barrel material. Also, you can see there's like 3 or 4 different
like finishes
on the lens, whereas the L mount or the 24-70 Leica is exactly the same, black anodized from the very end of the lens to the very front of the lens. This sort of hood mounting part of the Sigma lens is plastic for sure. I can feel that. This part on the Leica lens is all metal. I mean, the difference is pretty dramatic. The weight difference is not huge. Let's actually see what the weight difference is between the two. Not the spec weight, but the real weight. 24-70 Leica is 846 grams, as I mentioned. 24-70 Sigma, 828 grams. So 20 grams difference, which makes sense because the barrel material isn't terribly thick, I assume.
And aluminum's not super heavy.
Exactly. So certainly that. Okay, let's get back to the close-up shot. Here we go. So that's the first thing you notice, right? So you got no switches. You've got a higher quality barrel construction. You've got the metal front ring as opposed to the plastic front ring. So the entire outside of the lens is totally different. This is like the Rolls-Royce BMW analogy I was making earlier. Dramatically different. Obviously, you can't feel them. I can turn these focus rings. I can't really show you that. Here we go. And I can actually hear the Sigma turning, and I can't hear the Leica turning. There's like a little bit of plasticky feel to the Sigma. It's not bad. And
It's not as bad as the other lenses.
No.
Yeah.
On its own, it's fine, but the Leica is noticeably smoother. So if you manual focus a lot, you're going to notice that.
Well, the zoom ring too, right?
And this, I'm getting there. I got to just separate that. So now we've got the Leica here. I can feel the zoom on the Leica. You can see how it extends. Okay. Look at the Sigma. Same thing, not as smooth, and it just feels more like plastic on plastic. Again, it's not dramatic. I'm not saying this feels like junk. Don't get me wrong. It's just it just feels like a more premium lens, which makes sense because it's made out of more premium materials. This is not marketing nonsense. This is me holding the lenses in my hand, both of them, and telling you. And if you have the access to both of these at some point or know someone that has one of each and you can get them together, you'll see the same exact thing that I'm telling you. So now we're talking about a slight edge in optical performance, a slight edge in feel, or more than a slight edge in feel. Of course, the Sigma lens here does not have access to Leica's, what do they call it now? The linear focus control. Well, they don't call it that, but
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
An SL lens firmware update came out late last year, which allowed you to choose the degrees of rotation you have on the lens's focus ring for manual focus. It's great for video.
Yeah, degrees of focus throw.
Yeah, degrees of focus throw. You do not have access to that with the Sigma lens. So if you do a lot of video work and count on that functionality, you're not
right. So it's fly-by-wire only,
correct,
rather than fixed distance.
correct. So you're not going to get that with the Sigma lens. So that's another thing that you are missing out on. I did do my best to test the autofocus speed between the two. It's pretty hard to measure that when you don't have the right tools, which I currently don't have, although I'm working on that. Very similar. I really couldn't tell much of a difference in the focus speed. Maybe the Leica was a little bit quieter, but that could have just been, my ears ringing with the Sigma or something. I don't know. So, okay, let's go back to the wide shot here. I've been doing way too much talking. My goodness.
Oh,
So many questions.
So many questions. in
There's so
chat.
many questions. Jose, have you read anything that I really need to answer that's relevant to what I was talking about?
Let's see here.
I'll mention while you're doing that, the Sigma lens hood is not only very cheap plastic, it has like this button you have to press to like get it to attach. Oops, putting on the Leica, it doesn't even fit, which really feels like trash. I'm sorry. The Leica lens hood is just a beautiful bayonet.
That looks like it's gonna fall over.
Just like, it's perfect. So a minor thing, but noticeable.
Yeah, it is a little weird though.
So, okay, I guess the real question is, if you knew nothing about anything we're talking about, and I handed you both of these 24-70 2.8 lenses, and I asked you, are they the same? And you shot with them both for a day, and you use them both for a day, they would say no. You would say they're not exactly the same. They're different.
Right. I mean, I don't even know if you guys can hear this, but that's me tapping, because we have noise reduction on our microphone, so you may or may not hear that, but basically the lens sounds hollow when you tap on it with your finger.
So I don't know, I can't speak to durability of Sigma lenses because I haven't owned one in a very long time,
Yeah.
but I can speak to having dropped SL lenses myself, that they're extremely, yes, I know,
my.
extremely well made.
Well, as evidenced by, here, you can even demonstrate.
What?
Just show that.
Oh, it's like you want to
This.
drop it?
No.
Yeah, if you look at our 90-280 here,
That's me.
you can see
I
we got
get
some
that.
huge honking dents. And look at, where is it on here?
Yeah, it's
Here.
right there.
Look at that right there. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, this lens has been through some stuff, but it's solid metal. So it still works perfectly fine. So I think when you look at the two lenses side by side and you say, what is the internet saying? They're the same lens. It's just a
That's
rebranded.
it's not the same lens.
It's not exactly the same. Now, is it worth $1,700 more? I can't answer that. Nobody can answer that for anyone else. Will it make your pictures better? Well, arguably yes, but that's pretty subjective, and that's a bold claim for me to make, especially as someone who's biased.
I
towards
think
Leica.
that you can make that a lot more
Yes.
when we take a look at the images. So
Yes.
I don't know if we're ready to do that yet.
I can show pictures, but let me skim through.
Let's talk through a few questions before we get to
let me skim
the
through your
image
guys'
samples.
questions really quick. Josh holding a Sigma lens, yes.
Yes, it happened.
I have no problem acknowledging the existence of other products.
Not just that, you guys have actually requested that we take a look at Leica lenses versus third-party lenses. This has been an ongoing request for a while now. Yes, we've resisted, but here it just seemed like the perfect opportunity to dive in. And as you saw, Josh basically just like added everything in terms of every lens we could get a hold of that would be comparable. So we're doing it. What do we got over there?
Let's see. Why would Leica sell the 24-90 against the 24-70? Well, because the 24-90 is better,
Which we'll show.
has stabilization, is longer, and is better.
Yes.
I mean, I get it. Like it's like they sell a 35 Summicron, a 35 Summilux, and a 35 Apo for the same reason.
Yeah, I mean, I put this in my my announcement article on Red Dot Forum, which was the 24-70 2.8 is not replacing the 24-90. Just the same way that the 35 Apo Summicron M did not replace the 35 Summicron Aspheric. These are different products at a different price point, a different performance point. And, where we're looking at this in terms of where that that performance versus value, but also size and flexibility. Because the 24-70 is so much lighter, it makes for a really great kit for certain photographers who want to shave off the weight without sacrificing, the performance that applies to them. And we're going to show some kind of specific examples of that in Lightroom, and then I guess we can talk about what we feel as use cases for the lens.
Yeah. Mark asked if the focus ring turns the same, is also opposite? No, focusing is the same direction. Only the zoom ring is the opposite. Andy had said, I hope Leica has started to follow other manufacturers down the cheap road. Portugal, Japan, is China next? No, well, Portugal was specifically because of a tariff situation, which we wrote about on Red Dot Forum. That's different.
Well, and they
make their binoculars there. They invested millions and millions of euros in that new factory in Wetzlar. I don't think they're going down the road anytime soon.
Tens of millions of euros.
We did not try them for video yet. We haven't had this long enough, but that's definitely on the list. Let's see. Hold on. I'm just trying to
The same coating?
That we don't know. We don't know anything about the optical design in terms of what's different internally, because Leica has not. I mean, again, Leica hasn't said this is a Sigma lens, so we don't know. We don't know that, which we spent way too much time talking about it.
We have a question that's not completely related, but
what's up?
It could be. Let's see. How do you think this lens paired with the TL55 to 135 would work as a 2-lens travel kit for the SL2?
I mean, that's where we're talking more about use case, and certainly
135 and here's 24-70.
So let's take a look at that, because that's a good question.
I'm going to read through some more of your questions, so I'm not ignoring you guys, I promise. I just want to make sure I get to as much of this stuff as I can, because I have spent the whole darn day doing this.
So the CL is great, and the lenses for it are really good. And yes, most of them are made in Japan, and that hasn't held back the image quality or our recommendation for it. So something that we've heard quite a lot of through the years with the CL is, I really like the zoom range of the 18 to 56, but I don't want to have a variable aperture, slow zoom going out to 5.6. Is there a constant aperture zoom that, that's not the size and weight of a 24 to 90? Well, I guess now there is something closer. So seeing how it mounts on here, I know the lens shade is very cool, but I'm going to just take it off for size. And that's actually, not terrible. I've seen worse combinations in terms of overall size. I think that for me, if I was going to use this size lens on here, I'd want to put the hand grip on and or a thumbs up, because then it would balance pretty nicely. I can hold it in one hand, but it's definitely pulling a little bit forward. But not bad. And this is going to be an equivalent on the CL or on the TL2, an APS-C crop. So that's going to be a 1.5x multiplier. So we're going to get a 35 or 36 to 105, which is a really nice zoom length. And if you pair that with the 11 to 23,
we can ask about the 55 135, yeah,
and or the 55 to 135, you can see that this lenses turn it to the front.
Nobody can accuse me nobody should accuse me of bashing Sigma. I'm only doing a relative comparison here, so I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, so these lenses actually are not too far off in terms of size. Definitely.
No, I haven't put them side by side. That's actually that's pretty nice, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I'd say the diameters is definitely more on the 24 to 70.
Two questions about the lens hood, the 24 to 70 lens hood. Colin wants to know if it's flat on the ends. It is flat. Will it stand up without tipping over? Let me see. Yeah, it's pretty solid. It's not going to tip over. The Sigma
is a little wobbly.
Sigma's a little wobbly. Yeah, this is a bit wider.
They can't see that over there.
But it will eventually be available. I hope. It's catalog number.
Yeah, see this?
Yeah, 12309. I've already asked Leica if I can order them. They have not told me if I can or not yet. So
just to demonstrate that
stay
again.
tuned for that. Yeah, much more solid.
Yeah.
Colin, I'll send you one when I get it, I promise.
He wants it for his 24 to 90.
I know he does, and I'll send it to him. Okay. Somebody asked about the price difference. So the $27.95 for the Leica, $54 or $55.95 for the 24 to 90, something like that. So it's about half as much.
$55.95.
$55.95?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here we go. I'm gonna see.
Okay.
Vlad says, I'm very confused by this move. Sigma 24 to 70 is amazing. I agree. It's excellent. It already exists for Leica. That's the key. It's for Leica. It's not a Leica lens. Leica 24-90 is amazing and is Leica. If it is Leica for people who cannot afford one, that kind of dilutes the SL line. I don't think so. I think it's very specific to the fact that the SL line is designed, maybe not used as much as they'd like, but designed for professionals. And Leica recognized that there was a space they could fit another lens without diluting the product line, because they know people using this system are working, or some of them are working photographers who don't have huge budgets necessarily.
Well,
and I think,
or want something smaller and lighter.
yeah, and I think if you are a Leica photographer, you generally tend to like to buy Leica products. So the opportunity to buy a Leica lens that's designed, warranted, and stood behind by Leica means a lot. Whether you agree or not, I don't really care. But just telling you from experience, having bought other brands over the years, there's a significant difference between these two lenses, as I just talked about. So, yeah.
You want to show the samples?
I do. Let me just look and see one other thing really quick. Because someone asked about the bundles. Yeah, so I mentioned that briefly, but I'll mention it again. If you are new to Leica or you're new to the SL system, you can actually get a 24-70 bundle with an SL2 or an SL2S, and you save like $600. That's pretty cool.
It's a great deal.
Yeah, awesome. But that's too salesy. I don't want to get into that. Okay, let me pull up some.
Here we go.
I will mention the one thing is I really couldn't test it at 24 very well because I don't have enough space in the store to get far enough away with a big enough object.
As someone who does a lot of these tests,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, 24 is a nightmare to test.
Yeah, so I really need to like go outside for that, and it's hot outside. You know, I'm a delicate flower, so no outside for me.
Fragile flower.
All right, so let me compare the. Jose, you can pull up the Lightroom.
There we go.
Okay, so this testing is my infamous elevator room door test. What you're looking at is 24-90, Leica 24-70, and Sigma 24-70 at 24, 35, 50, and 70, 2.8, f4, and 5.6, except on the 24-90, which can't go to 2.8 other than 24. So let's take a look at, let me just see which lens this is real quick here. Here we go. Okay, so we've got, I'm going to try to keep the 24-90 on the left. That's my objective. So we've got 24-90 on the left at 35 millimeter, 24-70 on the right at 35 millimeter, and they're both wide open. The 24-90 is 3.2 at 35, and the 24-70 is 2.8, of course. And here in the center, you can see they're very, very close. It's hard for me to really see any noticeable differences, maybe a slight increase in sharpness on the 24-90, but it's very, very close. You can see, though, that the 24-90 is slightly lower in contrast, which is a little bit more dynamic range friendly, but does require a tad bit tweak to your lens profile or your import preset when you're in Lightroom. Let's take a look at the corner here. Here is where the differences become significantly more apparent. If you look at this, what is this called?
The rosette.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah.
The rosette here. You can definitely see how on the left there is a higher level of contrast and detail than on the right, which makes sense. 24-90 is amazing. Let's go to the other corner here. Again, even more apparent here. I think I was slightly off axis for these test shots. So one corner in all the images is a little sharper than the other. Thankfully, I'm only looking for the relative comparison here, not the individual comparison, so it's okay. Because I never moved the tripod for any of these
yeah,
shots.
I understand this is not a test bench.
Yeah, this is me
On a tripod.
crammed into a tiny hallway, but it's fine because the relative comparison has merit. And here you can very clearly see where the 24-90 on the left is significantly sharper in the corners, wide open at 35 millimeters than the 24-70 is on the right. Let's talk about 24-70 against 24-70. So we've got Sigma on the left,
Yeah,
Leica on the right.
Why don't we flip those so we always keep the Leica?
Leica on the left. Okay, so Leica on the left. So Leica 24-70, 35 millimeters, wide open on the left. Sigma 24-70, 35 millimeters, wide open on the right. So let's go in the center. See if we can see any differences. I'm going to guess probably not. Well, I actually can see a very slight difference where the Leica is slightly sharper. It's pretty negligible, probably on YouTube, but I can see it most noticeably here on the, can they see my mouse? Yes.
Yes.
Here on the bottom on this like little, I don't know, Beetlejuice kind of thing. You can see that there's actually a little bit more moire, which is a sign of a higher level of detail being resolved, and a little bit higher contrast here too. Also look at the gaffer tape, it's a little crisper. And I actually and I'm going to, in the interest of full disclosure as well, I did this test 3 times because I wanted to make sure my results were consistent. So this is the last test, which was the 3rd time using back button focus, self timer, ISO 200, like best practice. Let's take a look at this corner here. Here we can see they're very close. I'm going to give a slight edge to Leica in the corner, but not huge. Let's look at the other corner where we notice more of a difference. Here,
Oh, that's significant.
I think this is where you really can see the differences. Again, I'm slightly off axis, which is why the corners are a little off. Look at the tape. This is my super advanced test chart attachment device called gaffer tape. Look at the detail in the edge of the tape here versus here. Now, you could call me biased all day long, but the proof is in the data. These are raw files. They both have the same exact edits applied. They both have sharpening applied. They both have my standard Lightroom SL2 edits applied. I can see right here, proofs in the pudding, the Leica is better. Let's take a look at another example.
Now that was at 35mm, right?
Yeah, I want to go to 50.
Okay.
So we've got wide open on both, 50-50. So both 50mm, both wide open, same ISO, everything. So let's see. Center, very, very, very close. I'm seeing...
Although, look at the rosette in the lower left. Definitely sharper on the Leica version there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably not enough that you would see it on YouTube. Let's see. Let's look in the top left corner here. Here we can start to see the differences. If you look here, you can see a little more detail. Oh, here we go. Why don't I point to that? This, look at the difference here. And this like thingy.
Look at the text. Look at the 2014.
Yeah, I mean, that's dramatic.
chart.
That's dramatic.
Look at the top of the chart, right?
Oh yeah, just look at where it says 2014 DGK color tools. Look at that. That is a difference.
Big difference.
I'm just telling you, everybody is entitled to draw their own conclusions. But if you're telling me these 2 lenses are the same, well, they're not working the same way. The Leica lens is sharper. This is not just me telling you. This is me showing you. I'm in a as controlled but also realistic testing environment as I can possibly generate. Let's
Want to go to 75?
or 70.
70, yep.
This one, I think. Here we go. So here we have 70, 70. I'm just making sure they're the same. Okay, good. Here we go. Let's see. Again, look at this graphic here with the numbers on it. Look at how much crisper. I'm not saying that these are razor sharp. Well, wait till you see the 24-90. But look at the letter R. Forget about test targets. Look at this is like a sticker for the door, right? Look at how much more detail you see in the edges of the sticker and in the texture on the door. This is like that paint stuff. Significant. Center, not as much. As I said earlier, most lenses are sharp in the center. That's not rocket science.
Especially good ones. But go back into that one.
Oh, I want to. Which one? Oh,
Yeah, the comparison set.
yes.
Go right into the middle of the chart.
Yes.
And again, look at that 2014 color chart tools at the bottom now.
Yeah, right here.
And it's definitely crisper text.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
pretty
can see
close.
that.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
Definitely the corners is where the differences are most apparent, which makes sense. Let's do a quick comparison of 24-90 on the left at 70. This is at 3.8 because you can't go to 2.8 at 70. And 24-70 on the right at 70 at 2.8. Let's just go right to the corner here because I really want to show the difference. Now that is pretty dramatic, not game changer dramatic, but definitely difference. But I think the other corner is more different. Here we go. You can see where I'm on axis here.
Oh yeah.
Look at the
that
difference
cross
here.
pattern, yeah.
Again, the reason the corners are different is because I'm slightly like shifted a little bit because this was not a perfect test. So I'm only looking for relative comparisons here, right? That's the key. So the relative comparison between these two in the same exact situation is 24-90 is insane. This is sharper in the corners than most M lenses are wide open. The 24-90 is. 24-70 is about the same. Actually, the 24-70 in a lot of ways is closer to M lenses
Yeah.
than the 24-90 is. Should I show the close-up test? Or should we wait on that?
Well, why don't you show another focal length of that?
Okay.
Like, look at that at 35, let's say.
Okay. Here we go. So here we have 24-90 on the left at 35mm at 3.2. Didn't I show this already?
24-90 versus 24-70?
That's
You
fine.
did it for the 24 to
Well, that's fine. We'll show it.
70s.
Let's take a look. Here we go. So here you can see this is actually
look
not.
Look at the text again.
It's not that. much different in this corner. It'll be more different in the lower left corner, I suspect. These are pretty close. Definitely a little more detail in the 24 to 90, but let me take a look. Here we go. Here we go. Now you can see a significant difference here. This little graphic.
Or look at the cross pattern on the
Or
left
look
side.
at the text again if you just want. I mean, look at that. As you start to get more towards the corner, look at the rosette, as David calls it, or is what it's called. I mean, look at the difference between here and here.
Or
Huge.
forget that. Scroll. Yeah.
Look at the hinge. Yeah.
Look at the hinge.
Look at the door hinge. It's a huge difference. So the 24 to 90 is still the king.
Yeah.
I have not really found a scenario where the 24 to 70 is better, except in some situations. I actually found at 24, at the very, very wide end, the corners of the 24 to 70 were a little bit sharper than the 24 to 90. So that's interesting. If you spend a lot of time at the wide end of the wide end of the zoom, you will see slight differences. I want to show one last thing, which is 70. I don't think I've showed that. Maybe I showed that. I can't keep track of what I showed and what I haven't showed. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm doing my best. Okay, well, let's just look at that difference. On the left, 24 to 90 at 70, wide open. On the right, 24 to 70 at 70, wide open. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to know why the 24 to 90 is twice as much price-wise? This is why. Because the corner sharpness, which is the hardest metric to really achieve on a lens, is dramatically different. Architectural landscape, wide open. This is where that money's going. Sweet. All right.
Nice.
Let me show. All right, now I'm going to show what you're really paying for with the 24 to 90. Because at middle distance, you can see differences.
But what distance were you taking that at?
That was about 2 meters or 1.6 meters.
2 meter.
1.6. No, I'm sorry. I did look. It was like 1.6 meters in the back, like around the bathroom.
Yeah.
So what this test is a minimum focus wide open test. This is where you're really pushing a zoom lens to its limit, because to make a lens perform from minimum to infinity requires tons of engineering, as Leica has demonstrated with a lot of their newer M lenses. This is where you can really tell the difference between a $2,800 lens and a $5,500 lens. So let's take a look real quick here. So here we have, oops, I'm just hitting buttons. Here we have the
24 to 70.
24 to 70. So basically what I did was I focused it at minimum and I moved my tripod until it was as sharp as I could make it. Beautiful bokeh, actually.
We'll keep the overlay on it so they can see what lens.
Here.
Yeah.
So here we go. This is 24 to 70, at 70, wide open, focus as close as I could possibly get. So the highest reproduction ratio possible. Now, you can see if I zoom in, it's not bad, and by itself, you'd be like, oh, this is pretty good. But let me compare it to 24 to 90, and suddenly you're going to say, oh, wait. Without even me zooming in, you can see the differences here. Oops, sorry, wrong button. This button. All right, let's take a look. Okay, I'm pretty sure we can all see the differences here. On the right, I'm changing the layout here. Let me switch it back. 24 to 90 SL at 70, minimum distance on the left. 24 to 70 SL at 70, minimum distance, both wide open. In this case, 2490 is at 3.8 because it's not a constant aperture zoom. Look at the shutter speed dial. I mean,
Wow.
yeah. Again, you want to know what you're paying for. That's what I'm pointing at. You can see that's what you're paying for. That's what the 24 to 90 does. The 24 to 70 can't. So
That's huge.
there are absolutely use cases where the 24 to 90 is measurably, objectively, noticeably superior. Close up is probably the most dramatic, at least that I experienced when I was doing my testing. I think that's enough test images for now. Let's go back to the wide view here.
And I'll
No, it's
just-
fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
And I'll just chime in.
Yes.
I have used the 24 to 90 at 70 to 90.
I'm going to look at some questions while David talks. Yeah.
Like at the long end, 70 to 90, wide open at f4 for detail shots more often than I can count. I love using that lens for close up. There is no native macro lens, but I kind of make the 24 to 90 into my pseudo macro lens because it does get really close and it is ridiculously sharp, wide open close up. So where Josh was showing that 1.6 meters or 1.5 meters distance, the 24 to 70 matches up really well to the 24 to 90. That's where we were maybe most surprised. And then you'll show a picture, a little like the one of the bags that shows that 24 performance.
Oh, yeah, I can show that picture.
Yeah.
Though. I didn't want to just I get so caught up in my test results.
No, that's fine. So So we were surprised that the 24-70 actually edges out the 24-90 at 24
Yeah.
at distance.
Yeah, I'll pull it up while you're.
So
while you're
as we
talking.
get longer focal length and closer, the differences to the 24-90 become much more apparent.
Yeah, I mean, it is actually.
But it opens up certainly in my mind that means that if we identify the kind of photography and the kind of pictures that you like to take, then I think it allows us to really hone in and see which lens is right for what job.
I'm also going to say this, and people are going to be mad when I say this. When I said this to you earlier,
Yeah.
really, if you've got an SL2 kit with 1 or 2 bodies and 3 to 5 or more lenses, you should also have a 24-70. I'm just going to say it because it's $2,800.
Mm-hmm.
It's lighter, smaller, and faster aperture than the 24-90. Not better at everything, as we just showed, but for a 1 lens, small bag kit, like an Ona Bowery type of kit, or
Yeah.
no bag, it is great.
Well, and again, coming back to the size and weight. So how much lighter was this than the 24?
Yeah, 10 ounces, if my memory serves.
10 ounces.
Yeah.
Well, what is that in grams? It was like 400 and
something.
something.
Zabra-
Numbers.
zabra- blabra.
Numbers.
I don't know.
It's a lot. So
Yeah.
more than
Almost 300.
300 grams? Okay. there.
300 grams.
Sorry, bad at numbers.
bad at metric system.
Want to come back to Lightroom, Jose?
Oh, you got to see this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this. And we'll come
So
back.
this is a photo of our fantastically messy bag display at the Leica store. If anyone who works at the store right now is watching, I'm sorry for subjecting you to this. So,
Oh my god.
My question though
I'm comparing
is
the wrong ones here. Hold on.
where is the pine green bag, Josh?
Right. Yeah, right. Sorry, I had all this time to prepare and I still didn't bring out the right ones. Okay. So on the left, we have 24-90 at 24 at 2.8. On the right, no, not the right one. 24. Here we go. On the right, 24-70 Leica, 24 at f2.8. Here you're going to see where the 24-70 Leica actually beats out the 24-90. So you can see this bag starts to get a little bit soft, a little bit like the details on the buckle, whereas here it's super crisp. If I go to the other corner, this little, again,
We're seeing the
I
same
like the
thing.
bags because they have like metal and texture and fabric, and you can really see. I will say that if you look at the fixture here, this cabinet, this line on the 24-90 is a little bit straighter here, so a little less distortion to 24 on the 24-90. But sharpness, corner sharpness on the Leica 24-70 is actually better than the 24-90. Not dramatically so, but none of these differences are dramatic except for the close-up one. But it's definitely there. So this is fascinating to me because I would not have expected this to happen. I don't know why that is, but I'm not complaining. I like that it's good. So if you do a lot of wide angle stuff, this could be a very viable option. Then we can go back to the wide shot now. Here we go.
Right.
Let me see
so
my questions while
to be specific, let's say that you like to trek in the woods and do landscape photography. 24-70 seems like a really great deal because you're saving 10 ounces, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it feels like a lot when you're hiking, especially going up and gaining elevation. Colin, you could chime in the comment about this because Colin actually hiked the entire Colorado Trail, which is like a lot of miles.
He's a crazy person.
He's a crazy person, and he climbs 14ers on a regular. So, and he uses an SL system. So, knowing that you can cut out the weight and the size, you can work in a smaller bag. You can not kill your back and your legs, and if you know that it's going to perform that well at the 24 end, and that's going to be kind of your bread and butter for landscape photography, and you're not going to really be doing any close-ups, it could work really well. I think also this is really geared towards, let's say, event photography, available light photography, because it is a stop faster at the long end, which can make a big difference in terms of getting that much faster shutter speed.
We had a couple questions, or at least two that I saw, of people that wanted to see 3.8 on the 24-90 where it was forced to be at 3.8 versus like f4 on the 24-70.
Yeah.
So let me pull that test up for you guys real quick. Bear with me, and we'll find it.
I feel like these are going to be a lot closer.
24-90, 70 at 3.8, okay. And then
Josh is processing.
I'm
right
working on it. Give me a second.
now. Hold on. Is there a progress bar? It's like,
That is number 23 and number 10. Okay, here we go.
You
Just
got
make
it?
sure before Jose pulls to this camera that I have it right. So I've got
That looks right.
24 to 90 at 70 at 3.8. Okay, you can go to Lightroom, Jose. Okay, so now on the left, 24 to 90 at 70, wide open, in this case at 3.8. And someone was saying, well, if it has more depth of field, maybe that's why it's sharper. Okay. On the right, 24 to 70 at 70 at f4. Let's take a look, shall we? Come on. Shocking. The 24 to 90 is still dramatically and noticeably sharper in the corners. It's not about depth of field. It's about optical design and performance. Good question, though, and actually why I do this test, to see the same thing. But here's an example where I'm stopping down a full stop on the 24 to 70 versus wide open on the 24 to 90, which again is 3.8. It's still sharper. Still sharper. And really, when I test lenses, I look at primarily wide open performance, because as you start to stop down, the differences become negligible. And then it's like, why are you spending all this money for such a thing if you're not going to use it for what it's made for? So it's like, how does this Ferrari drive in the parking lot? Like, well, probably like a Volkswagen. It's the same thing. All right, you can come back to the wide shot, Jose. I had a lot of fun doing this test because it allows me to empiricize these facts that are flying around. Like, let's see, like, is it the same? Is it worse? Is it better? What does it do? Well, the proof is in the test charts, always.
For sure.
And the proof is in putting it on a tripod and shooting it. And then, of course, getting it out in the real world and shooting it some more.
Which I am very anxious to be doing. You know, we just got the lens in. Josh was very greedy and just like, I'm doing all the testing.
And I'm taking it on my trip in June. But in between now and then, you can do whatever you want with it.
Exactly.
I may even leave it here for you. No, I won't do that.
But, you know, so going back to use cases, great for landscape, for hiking. I'd say great for an event photographer who's also maybe dealing with multiple bodies, and having a 24 to 70 2.8 is going to be more preferable to have that available light ability. And really there, you know, let's say you're shooting weddings like our colleague Gabe, absolute critical, you know, sharpness into the corners, not really important in wedding and portrait photography.
Yeah.
It's more about the look, which will segue into another set of samples that Josh is going to show, in terms of showing the bokeh and the focus fall off. So we'll show that just in a minute.
Yeah. I'll pull it up while you're
I also think that for video applications, which is kind of, you know, something I do, being smaller and lighter also allows this lens to go into a gimbal setup a lot easier, because you can balance this a lot easier than if there's, you know, 10 more ounces and it's coming out further, being very front heavy. So I can use a smaller gimbal, it's easier to balance, and being consistent aperture through the range allows you to, you know, to work a little more freely for video applications. So I think this would be a great video lens, which I saw there was a question about that earlier.
Yeah.
So there's kind of some interesting places where this can find a use, or let's say general travel photography, when we all start traveling again. Having something that, like Josh said, is kind of Bowery sized, where we could just slot this into a small shoulder bag.
Yeah, this would probably fit in a Bond Street, I bet. That's even the smaller Ona bag. I'm gonna try that next week.
And I would even say, okay, let's say that you have an SL2 instead of an SL2S. You could even pair this 24 to 70 with, say, 11 to 23, and you're still getting 20 megapixel, but ultra wide angle 1635 equivalent. You know, or if you wanted to use an M lens, you could use a wide angle Tri-Elmar or a 21. But you could definitely work on keeping that size down and the flexibility up.
This is a great question from Sarita. So if you get the 24 to 70 and you want the 90 to 280, do you regret the gap? I assume you mean the gap between 70 and 90, or will those two be enough?
I think it'll be enough.
I think it'll be enough.
Yeah.
Although the 90 to 280 being such a beast, what's the 24 to 90 compared to that, right? But no, I think you'd be okay.
Is that what you guys say? Mind the gap?
I think with an SL2 as well, you can fudge it a little bit with some cropping. You can pop it into APS-C mode and make it into a 105. So like, yeah, I don't think that alone would be a problem, in my opinion. But it's a good question. Let me show this test next. This is very quick. Jose, we can go back to the old CompU. Here we go. So here, what I've done is my trusty think tank bag, if you've seen my Bokeh test before, in the Leica store with dog toys and boxes and everything. This is 70 millimeters on the 24 to 90 on the left, wide open, a 3.8, because it doesn't go to 2.8. 70 millimeters on the 24 to 70, wide open, at 2.8 on the right. Okay, so what this test is designed to do is just observe the character of the bokeh, the out of focus rendering. And if we go right to our logo here, you can see a significant difference. The right image here, which is the 24-70, much smoother, much faster fall off, much more M lens-like, much more like a 50 lux at f2 or 2.8. Whereas on the left, you can actually start to define some of the shapes much more clearly. If we go down below here and look at this, this is like a LED light at the edge of a counter. You can see, look at, it's almost, I would say probably 30 or 40% more distance as the light kind of spreads out of this like diagonal measurement here, if I were to measure it. Significant difference, enough to the point where you would absolutely notice that if you were doing portraits, if you were doing events where the bokeh was important. And look at the bokeh balls, if you will, significantly different as well, where you really have a very soft edge, very gradual fall off on the 24-70, much more clearly defined edge on the 24-90. So this really feels more like an M lens than an SL lens in this particular scenario, obviously not in general, which I thought was a fascinating comparison. So back to us. There we go. Let's look at the other questions because there probably are so many.
So, which...
Do you have any examples of the 24-70 on the SL2 versus the SL2S? I did not do that because it's not... The lens is going to perform equally well on either camera. It's just a matter of resolution. Obviously, we've done a whole episode on the SL2S where we talk about how the ISO is better and all that. So, but no, the lens, the 24-70 is not going to be different performance-wise between the two cameras. And it actually would work quite well on a 601 as well, on original SL.
Indeed.
I'm looking. Let's see. I use my question.
Jose, do you have any burning questions?
Yeah.
While Josh is looking there?
Yeah, we have a few questions about comparing to other lenses.
This is the tricky one because I want to make something really clear. The 24-70, in my mind, really the only comparison that I feel like I'd be making as a buyer would be against the 24-90. I think there are a lot of amazing primes. Let's first also say the SL Apo Summicron primes are there's nothing better. So this is not a replacement for any of those. Neither is the 24-90. Mm-hmm. But certainly it's the best low light, compact, autofocus, weather sealed Leica solution for an SL2 or an SL kit when you want to have all those features. Because you can go with M lenses and they have manual focus. Okay. Mm-hmm. You can go with S lenses and they probably render pretty similarly, except they're huge and you have to have a $1,500 adapter.
Yeah.
And the autofocus is much slower. So they're not the same to me. I'm not saying they don't merit comparison. What I'm saying is that they're not in the same category. So I'm not thinking about them like as I'm putting my kit together. When I start using lenses with adapters, David and I both, we're really then starting to think about very specific creative effects we're trying to go for because it's not nearly as practical.
This is a native system lens.
Yeah.
How do you think it will stack up with an M lens of the same focal length?
So you keep forgetting to put your camera on.
I do.
Jose, ask that question again, please, with your camera.
If you stack this lens against an M lens of an equivalent focal length, how would it compare?
Well, I think that's what's fascinating is, and Josh and I spoke about this before, when he's showing the bokeh balls and the lights, that out of focus rendering is much more M-like than SL-like.
Yes. But it's not the same as M lenses.
No.
Because like 51.4 is still a 51.4.
It's so much more creamy.
The 24-70 at 50 is a 2.8.
Right.
So let's be clear. I'm just saying it renders more like an M lens than it does an SL lens in that scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's like a 75 Summit, let's say.
Yeah.
You know, that this at 70 wide open is much more similar to that rendering of a Summit wide open, which is a good thing. It has that classic feel to it. So that's why Josh is kind of saying, well, this is a good addition. It's not necessarily like an and or type of lens unless you're trying to come in at a certain budget or a certain size.
I guess we really opened a can of worms because now people are asking us to compare other non-Leica lenses to Leica lenses. I don't usually do that just because it's not our wheelhouse.
And it's a big can of worms.
We would have not been doing our jobs if we didn't address one of the most asked questions about the 24-70 Leica lens. So David and I both agreed from the get-go that we were kind of going to break our own self-imposed rule, but I wasn't going to do it without having the lens, the Sigma lens, and without testing the heck out of it to actually understand what it did, not just to look at the specs and draw a bunch of conclusions like a lot of people have been doing. Well, I understand why.
Yeah.
Hopefully you've watched this episode and now understand the reality. Yeah. You understand the optical differences, you understand the physical differences, and the emotional differences, how it makes you feel. I'm just saying.
Does the Leica lens make you feel safe?
It makes me feel, it's like warm, fuzzy feeling when I feel
But
metal.
it's metal, it's cold.
When I feel that's true. It's physically cold, but it's emotionally warm. Yes.
Oh, I like that.
We're gonna have like a little
Wow.
campfire session. Like we're gonna just let it all out.
Yeah. Kumbaya and all
we're
that.
just rambling. What pushed Leica to make this lens before a 21 f2 prime or a 24 f2 prime? I think that those are being made in tandem.
Yeah.
I mean,
this isn't
Yeah.
instead of. Leica's not doing that.
This is just something that they wanted to do.
The plan for the 21 and 24 Summicrons, that's been in place for a number of years.
Yeah,
And
the 28's now out. They're shipping, and they're actually going to be in stock soon. I think. So then I hope we see 21, 24.
oh,
We don't know. We don't actually know when, but I would imagine in the next year.
Yeah.
Or less. Jose, did I miss any questions? I'm scrolling up through because I know there's been so much discussion here.
Yeah, there is one about color performance between the Sigma and the Leica 24-70. If there is any
well, I think you could
difference.
see from the test charts, certainly their color patterns on those charts, and the color rendering was pretty similar.
Yeah, I also, because I use an import preset, it kind of
That's true.
It's negates any of that minor differences. So no, I don't really ever notice color differences between lenses unless it's something really, really extreme, like a 1.2 Noctilux or a
Well,
30.
I'm curious. I know we didn't show it, but
Yeah.
Canon lenses are notoriously yellowy and warm. Did you notice a big color difference on the
I
NSS?
didn't shoot with the Canon enough to know because it was so slow.
Yeah.
I was just like,
No.
but I would, you could just correct it out, I would imagine. So it's not, I get why you're asking that. It's fine, but it's not even, it didn't come up in my testing.
The things that you notice Josh looking at is one, sharpness, fall off, out of focus rendering, but also you notice he talked about contrast of the lens with the equivalent settings, because you can certainly normalize contrast using just simple curve or just some slider adjustments and negate that. But that's what we're saying. The 24-90 has slightly less contrast, but more sharpness than the 24-70.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do look for, when I look for comparisons, I'm certainly looking at what the differences are, but a subtle difference in color rendering is not going to be something I would really pay attention to.
Right.
There was enough contrast difference out of the box, if you will, even with my preset applied, that I did notice that. But yeah, I didn't really notice much color. I like the color that comes out of the SL2 quite a lot and the SL2S. But again, that's always, we have import presets in Lightroom, so we're never looking at out of camera, if you will. We've talked about this before at length.
Yes.
We're not going to talk about it
a few
now.
episodes on it.
And we're just looking to see. Jose, did I miss anything else?
Yeah, David earlier asked about internal dust protection on the 24-90 against the 24-70.
Well, Leica doesn't provide, so Leica provides IP ratings for their camera bodies, not for their lenses.
But there really is a whole package.
I mean, if there was a dust problem with any SL lenses, you can bet I'd know about it because I'd be the one sending them in for repair.
yeah,
So
it's not really a thing. I
it
mean,
hasn't happened that I've seen, but I can't speak for everyone everywhere. But no, I don't think it's an issue. I mean, they're sealed, and
although, let's be real, look, it's not sealed anymore. And, especially if you zoom this out.
yeah, and that's also doubly real. I don't really care if there's dust inside because for it to actually affect the performance of the lens, it has to be the size of like
gosh.
a nickel.
Yeah.
So, don't care. Somebody asked, why is the Q2 always sold out? I wish I could tell you. I'm not related to this episode at all, but man, I wish I could tell you. It's just that good.
It's that good.
Watch the Q2 episode and you'll see why.
Yes. Everybody loves the
That's a
Q2.
valid question.
It is a valid question.
Gaber's here. Oh, I didn't
I
notice
think that something that I'd like to discuss is let's take a look at how the 24-70 can kind of slot in and to different roles and different camera systems.
Oh, yeah, I gotta have some beer first. I mean, water.
It's on a roll today.
Nothing like a red Solo cup with nice
Delicious
tap
water.
It's
On
like
tap.
a water.
It's filtered tap water, I'll have you know.
filter tap.
Yeah. All right. Let me just see last. Okay, it's funny. It appears like somebody has a plaid shirt dress code. Was there a memo this morning? I saw about that. We
It
were
was not
doing
on
our
purpose.
testing earlier. I was
Well-
like, wow, we're both wearing plaid.
Actually, not only that, all three of us are wearing blue checkered shirts today. This was not planned. You have to understand there's no wardrobe department. Like, we don't go like we show up here separately, and we all happen to be wearing blue.
We planned it. Just admit it. We planned it.
That's pretty
It's
funny.
fine.
I like this shirt. I'll have you know. I got to get more of this brand. This is like doesn't wrinkle because I'm always feeling my shirts are wrinkled.
Okay,
Okay, we really got off topic here.
so let's talk
Yes,
about
use cases.
use cases and also entry points, because I think where it's not just that it's lighter weight, it's not just that it has a little bit more M-like lens rendering and all that. Let's address this. It's under $3,000 for like a zoom lens that, for all intents and purposes, is producing exceptionally good quality relative to what we already know as a 24-90 that produces prime lens quality. Is it as good? No. But is it 80% as good? Yes.
Yeah.
For 50% less.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's saying
so
something right there.
what's the best way for me to get into this lens, or is this lens a good entry point for me to now afford to get into an SL system? So let's say that I look at an SL2 at how much are they now?
$64.95.
$64.95 plus $5,600 for the lens.
Yeah,
How much is that?
that's $12,000.
Okay, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That we're like, in anyone's book, that's a lot of money to get into a camera and a lens.
I'm being blocked by these huge lenses. I'm gonna put them.
But
there we go.
is it an exceptional tool? Yes. Do so many of, do we and our colleagues all use this setup? Yes. It's just awesome. It's my most used camera system of any of the Leica stuff. Now, what if I want to get in for less? What if my budget is $5,000? Okay, and my choices are I could have a Canon or a Sony or a Nikon system with a zoom lens. Can I get something, a Leica, real Leica quality for under $5,000? And what would be the best way for me to do that?
Well, you get a used SL and a new 24-70, and that's going to set you back about $5K.
Now, when you say a used SL, you're talking about
A 601, yeah.
okay.
So that gives you cutting edge performance, a brand new lens, and a camera that's already depreciated, so it's going to stick with its value for about $5,000, give or take. Obviously, every used camera is different.
Okay, now,
that.
just like that. And I use this camera a lot, the SL601, for years. This is an amazing tool, both for stills and for video. But we are missing something. As I said at the top of the show, the SL601, 6 years on, still feels like a very modern camera.
Yes.
It's extremely responsive. It shoots faster than I need at 10 frames a second. Has electronic shutter, has a high-resolution touchscreen, 4.5 megapixel EVF, built-in GPS, which the SL2 does not. And, it's rugged, weather-sealed. This thing's a workhorse. Okay, what am I giving up relative to, say, an SL2? Now, I know we did a whole episode on this.
Well, the big one is stabilization.
Right,
And
because this lens doesn't
The
have,
quality of the viewfinder.
this one doesn't have optical image stabilization like the 24-90 did.
But because it's a 2.8, you can kind of cheat it a little bit. So I could get away with that.
So this is not a bad way to go. There's a lot of these cameras on the market for
22, 2300.
22, 2300, a lens for $2,800.
Yeah.
That's a pretty competitive price. And in my mind, that gets me into the SL system. And let's say that I can wait for used SL2s or SL2Ss to come on the market in the next 1 to 2 years at a reasonable, attractive price. This still has value. I could either keep it as a backup body or I could sell it and get into one of these.
Yeah.
And I've got the lens to go.
Yeah. Yeah, you're already in the L-mount system, and you've got the batteries are the same, and the chargers are the same, the straps are the same. A lot of the stuff is the same.
So that's not a bad way to go.
Jim asks, does it make sense to have a 24-70 and a 24-90? I could absolutely say
I can make a case for it.
Yeah, I think if I was going to go out on a landscape adventure with a zoom kit, meaning 16-35, a middle zoom, and a 90-280, I'd have the 24-90 because it is the highest performing. It does fill the gap between 70 and 90. It is the best, right? And I'm already bringing a pretty big kit. I'm probably going to have it in a backpack, so the extra size and weight of the 24-90 doesn't bother me. And I'm also doubly so going to be on a tripod for landscape.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. But when would I take the 24-70? Well, if I was going to go out just with the body and a lens, maybe not even have a bag with me, I probably wouldn't bring the 24-90.
Or let's say I could think I'm just going on a hiking trip with my family, and I don't have a camera backpack. I have just a regular hiking backpack, day bag, with a couple layers and lunch. I'm carrying lunch for the family. I don't have room for a full camera kit, and that's where a 24-70 on an SL2 is going to make sense. Where I could just throw the strap across my body, and then I don't need a bag. Throw an extra battery in, my hip pocket or something on my pants.
Yeah. So, yeah, because they're different enough, both in terms of price point, size and weight, and performance and rendering, that budget accommodating, yeah, I could easily justify having both because they both work differently.
Well, think about this also. If you have a 24-90, does that negate having a 35 SL?
Exactly, same concept. I mean, that's a bigger gap, but
It's a bigger gap.
Yeah.
But the 35 SL is smaller, and it's when you want one fixed focal length and something also that's extraordinarily high performing, even more so than the 24-90.
Yeah.
But there's a case for having primes and zooms, and I think there's a case for having.
Look, I think if you were doing, if all your photography was handheld, walk around, stop down, or you prefer the bokeh type of, or the softer rendering,
Then maybe just the 24-70.
you don't need a 24-90. But if your photography is varied enough, where you're doing some small kit, flexible zoom type stuff, and some serious tripod, big kit stuff, yeah, I could easily justify having both because they're different enough. Having used them all day long, I'm not saying everyone should do that. Just to be clear, I realize that's not for everyone. But look, how many people do we know that have a dozen 50mm M lenses? So nobody seems to think that's
Because
crazy.
they each have a different look.
Yeah, so
I know so many people, that they've got a 50 Summicron, a 50 Apo Summicron, a 50 Summilux, and a 50 Noctilux.
the same mindset. And the thing is, in the world of Leica, let's be real, right? A lens that performs like this for under $3,000 is a pretty good deal. I know I'm going to get flamed for saying that, but I don't care. So,
Well, and I showed this while you were looking up questions.
Yes.
But I'm going to throw this back on the CL because this is also an interesting little point. What I didn't mention was this lens is priced not too differently from,
not that one. Well, 35 is on the SL2 right there.
that one, yeah. From some of the, the 35-1.4, the 60-2.8 macro, is priced in the same ballpark range as the 24-70 2.8. So interestingly, for a CL owner, this gives them quite a nice flexible standard zoom that's 2.8 all the way through. It gives them what they've asked for that Leica doesn't have in the TL range.
I think with the grip and a thumbs up.
Yeah, I would have to
bring
put
with
that
me,
on there.
but with grip and a thumbs up, it would be very usable.
Yeah. Even here, I'm not straining to hold this,
Yeah.
but a grip would make it much, much easier. And then as a CL owner, this also gives me cross compatibility to an SL kit with full frame rather than a TL zoom where I'm going to have crop performance on the camera. So, this is happening more and more with Leica. Everything kind of works with everything else.
Right. There's more cross compatibility now than there ever has been.
Yes.
Which is amazing for building kits from different systems that all can work together. I think the L mount and the L mount Alliance and all the accessories and the adapters has been amazing for the growth of the Leica platforms in general.
Definitely.
And you see it here tonight because every lens on this table will work on every camera on this table.
Also, it's worth mentioning.
Oh, that's right. Good point.
And I don't know if it came up in the chat, but this is certainly a question I think a lot of people are going to have. So if you have, and this is great as a landscape shooter, I do use filters. These are some nice breakthrough filters that need a little bit of a cleaning, but these are all 82mm or E82 filter size, and every zoom, I kind of like this. This lens could have actually possibly been narrower at the end, but because they left it as 82mm, all my filters that work on the 16-35, the 24-90, and the 90-280 also work on the 24-70. So I don't need a whole nother set of filters if I'm going to grab the 24-70 versus the 24-90.
Very true.
And I'll give it yet another example. Let's say,
Stuff that down.
yep, let's give another example of where an 24-70 makes sense if you already have a 24-90. trip of a lifetime to Antarctica or Greenland or wherever that's hard to get to and there's no camera stores. A lot of people think about taking extra camera bodies, like throwing an extra body in your bag just in case, because what if one falls off a Zodiac or whatever? Like things happen. No, things happen.
I know.
Especially in cold, wet environments.
True.
Everything happens. Having a backup lens in the normal range that you're going to be shooting in 80% of the time makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
And at half the price of the 24-70,
Yeah.
and at a lot smaller where it takes up less room. And
Yeah, if you're
weight
walking
in your bag,
around some village somewhere or something,
yeah, you could grab this.
you could
too.
just grab that. You just take an SL2. We have an SL2S and an SL2, the 3 big zooms, maybe a prime, and then in another bag entirely, you've got an SL2S.
Mm-hmm.
So your SL2 with the zooms, the big zooms, and another bag, the SL2S with the 24-70. So you've got almost like 2 kits and some backup redundancy as well.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Because it sounds expensive to spend $2,800 just to have a backup lens. But if you're spending 20 grand to go to Antarctica,
That's right. And you still get to keep the lens after you get back,
you do.
unless you lose it.
You do. And you don't get seasick from the lens.
Well, I feel like we've covered everything. I don't see any more questions in the chat. I see someone asked if it's the same as the Sigma. Just we covered
Rewind.
that. We spent a lot of time on that. I promise.
Rewind.
So rewind. Don't rewind. Finish the episode and then rewind. But I think we've done it. I think we're about done. I do hope that watching this episode gave you a clearer understanding of what the lens is, how it works, how it performs, where it sits in the Leica lineup. But obviously, if you watch this episode and you have burning questions or you're still not sure about something, drop a comment, send us an email, and we are here to address these. We have the lens here. I have to send the Sigma back on Monday, so alas, I won't have that for much longer. But certainly, having shot with these lenses quite a bit now, I think I have a pretty good sense of where things are and how things work. So I don't think there's anything else we need to address. Do you?
I don't know, Jose?
No, not at the moment. Nothing new.
All right, let's call it.
What are we? Everyone good in the chat?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Did we actually answer
I think
everything?
we did. I think we really, as we're getting to these more and more specific episodes, we can actually be much more efficient. So I'm all about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's call it. We did it.
We did it, guys.
Good job, everyone. Shortest episode ever, but only slightly less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, we talked about the build quality. I promise. So
The build quality is good.
Yes.
Now, we got so caught up in talking about this lens and where it fits in and all that stuff. What we didn't talk about
What's that?
is the next episode.
Do we know what we're doing?
We have a pretty good idea.
I forgot already.
Well, we're gonna do a lens specific episode.
Oh, 75?
Yes.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
So I think for our next episode, we are going to do a whole episode about Leica 75mm lenses.
Yes.
M, SL, and whatever else I can find, which I guess that's it. So, yes, 2 weeks from now, you'll see all about 75s. And then our next show after that, I'm not going to say what it is, but it's going to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
We have an interesting kind of like another kind of, not a grab bag episode, but kind of a grab bag episode where we're going to cover a lot of different topics that are hot and new. So stay tuned.
Yeah. And do you guys tell us in the comments? Do you want to see more Jose or less Jose?
Oh god.
We all want to see more Jose. Come on.
Where are you, Jose?
He's there.
Come on
He's
back.
there.
I'm still
He's
here.
there.
There you go. So guys,
Send it in.
yay, yes, Jose.
There
Give
he
Jose a
is.
thumbs up if you want to see more Jose, because he's shy, but don't worry, we're
Just a
gonna
little bit.
we're gonna get him going. All right. So thank you for joining us for yet another episode and having us into your homes or offices or cars or wherever you happen to be watching us. We appreciate your continued viewership as always. Big thanks to Josh. He went hog wild this time around testing this lens.
Oh, yeah.
And, actually, went out and decided, okay, we're going to break that Leica barrier and we're going to go where, he has not wanted to go before. So big thanks to Josh and just the massive amount of testing and
it was
evaluation.
I love it,
We had a lot of fun just talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure Josh had even more fun doing all the testing. Thanks, Jose, for hanging in there and being seen today
Yep.
and keeping us on
First
target.
time.
Thanks to Kirsten for monitoring the chat. And a big thanks to you guys. We'll see you in 2 weeks and talking about Leica 70.
It may be 3 weeks. I think we're taking a week from. I don't think we're doing Memorial Day weekend.
3 weeks.
So I think our next episode is going to be. Let me look at the calendar here. June 5th, because the 29th is Memorial Day weekend here in the US.
Okay.
So we're giving everybody a break. So then we'll see you in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks for 75mm lenses.
Yes.
If you have any exotic ones you want to loan us for the episode, in return for some Leica swag and a shout out, please do. I have an Octolux already, so we don't need that.
We don't need that. We have one.
If you have a 35L can, for example,
Oh.
please hit me up. Anyway, yes. Sorry, you're talking us off.
As always, you can.
Jose's voice always made me think he was about 50. Surprise! That is, you win the comment of the year.
I like that.
That is the best thing I have ever heard. Oh my goodness. He is a young whatever old 29 or something.
Nice.
Getting older, but yeah, not
Nice,
50
nice,
yet.
nice.
Not 50 yet.
He's young at heart. He's
And-
a very young 50.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, we'll see you next
Okay.
time.
So, as always, I have dropped some links in the comment section the description, video description, where you can the direct link to if you want to get the 24-70 lens or either the SL2 or SL2S bundles. I have a link to those, just a collection, as well as the announcement article, which has all the relevant MTF charts, image samples, all that stuff. So be sure to check that out on Red.Forum. As always, you can go to red.forum.com for the latest Leica news, reviews, tech articles, product announcements, more. And be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when we post new content. And we will see you in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Until
June
then,
5th.
leave it in the comments section, and we will be back for more. Thanks, guys,
Good night, everyone.
and have a good night.
See you guys.